Well, hi guys and girls, Emma again. Welcome back to the spare room. Next part, I think it's part 5, something like that. We're going to finish the other ends of these parts. This little indicator build. Taking a bit of time on these and getting all the bits right. It's probably a tool I'll use and I'll have forever, so I'm sort of taking a bit of effort on them and getting everything right. I haven't actually remade anything yet, but at this point I've got some reasonably nice parts, I think. I need to set these up in the forger and I don't want to mark them up, so I've just spent 2 little bits of copper, thin copper sheet, soft copper sheet, to fit on 2 corners of this. And put that together with some masking tape so that holds all together while I set it up in the chuck. If we have a look at the drawing, this is probably the easiest part to finish first. Excuse the washing machine in the background. I try and get some laundry done today while it's sunny. There's no real dimension for here, but this needs to be 17mm long, and the centre to there is 29mm. So from the centre back this way to that stop there, it's got to be 12mm. Probably the easy way is just to mark that. We know if this is a 5mm hole and this is 12mm wide, then this radius here is pretty close to 3mm. So just from the end will do is 15. Probably total overkill to mark that, but at least I'll be able to see it when I'm setting it up and machining it. And that's probably, this dimension is going to be close enough. We've got a line there, 15mm. That gives us probably about 23. We could have a few millimeters off the end of that without any problems. Just in the spirit of keeping it nice and compact, I think. So let's set that up over at the lathe and machine this one quick. So we need to set this up on centre. I've put the little forger on because it's nice and easy, and it's only 15th hour or something per turn. So it's kind of pretty easy to get everything accurate. And I've set this indicator up, zeroed one side. I like to use the digital because it's a little bit less confusing, I think. And we need to find the low spot on each side. So the easiest way is just to give this a turn until this is at its lowest figure, which there is -2. If we zero that and we turn it round half a turn and check the same, and that's 6, so with 6th hour out, we need to move this 3rd hour. So we'll find the low spot again. We'll tighten him up. So it won't take long to get that right. We'll get it exact and we'll just turn this down. So for this part, I'm just going to tell you how you should have done it. Leave this rounded end until after you machine the shanks, because this is fairly difficult to set up here. I've managed to get it and do a pretty reasonable job of it, but I've machined it down and then I've turned it around and put in a collet and machined this shoulder here with the angle. So it looks pretty good and I'm really happy with it. But if I had left the round bit on the end until afterwards, it would have been a much nicer job. So we've got a 6mm shank there, right down to size. Nice taper on there. This still needs a little bit of a clean up with some emery paper, and also got a lot better without soft jaws, but that means clean up afterwards, so I actually took them out as a disclaimer. So you might get on alright like that, or you might not, but I'll just give these a clean up, and these really haven't marked at all. So that's that part done. So got this down to 10mm and 15mm long, the second one. That's pretty straightforward turning operation. The next one is to put a step on there. It's 4mm long and 8.5 diameter. So I've already got this set up to 0 on the travel dial. So all I've got to do is move along 4mm, and this here, if we set this to 0 too on the crossfire travel, well, all we got to do is move in 1.5mm on there, and we should have it spot on. Check it though. So we got this down to 8.5 on the end. We need to put a thread on this, a 10mm by 1mm thread. That needs to match this little nut, which needs a screw on here like this. That's the next thing. Now, this is a bit exciting for me because it's the first time I've set up and used the thread cutting attachment. So I'm going to get everything set up, and we'll have a bit of a look at it and just check the change gears, all those sort of things, and see how we go putting the thread on here. I'm going to put a bit of a land in the back of it, and I'm just going to do it by hand. Pull the machine over and cut it by hand without disengaging at the end, and we'll see what we end up with. So let's set the machine up, cut this thread, and now this isn't going to be a blow-by-blow count of how to cut a thread by any means. My thread gauge has got a 60-degree guide for sharpening tools, and if you hold it up to the light, you'll be able to see pretty closely how that fits. Take a bit of time over this. I've spent 20 minutes, half hour sharpening this tool. It wants a bit of rake on it, and because I'm not advancing the compound to cut this thread, I'm just going straight in. I've put a bit of clearance on or a bit of rake on the back. It wants clearance on the bottom, but I put a bit of rake on the back so that it's actually cutting on that front tooth. That's the theory anyway. I've also taken the side off here so I can get close enough to the chuck. So that's what I've got. I'm going to put in a tool post and try and get it nice and square. And see how that goes for putting a line on the part. But that looks pretty good to me. Spend a little bit of time just stoning this up. There's not much radius on there, and sharp's probably nearly good enough, but I know if I leave that razor sharp, it's going to chip off. So I'm going to put a little bit of radius on it and make the tool a little bit stronger and give us a nice looking thread too. We can look up in the book how much radius it needs to be, but probably that looks all right to me. So I think we can see this. We've got this system set up here nicely on the end to cut 1mm pitch thread. If we have a look, let's go in the right direction here. It's got a 75 to 60 and a 20 tooth to 50 tooth, which should give us 1mm pitch. It's got an idler in here as well, which is for just to give us the spacing. It also gives us a reverse, so we need to select which side we need to reverse or forward this to make it work. So here we go. We've got what, 0.1 of a millimetre cut, something like that. And we've got a line on there that we can check here with the thread pitch gauge, and it's pretty jolly close. It's actually spot on. So next job's just to cut this thread, and we'll just run him down a little bit at a time. Okay, we can wind that back out and make a note of where we are and reverse him off. Probably we could cut this under feed, but we're a little bit fussy about this particular thread, so we're just going to do it this way. We've got a bit of backlash there, so if we just wind that back, we're going to go over the thread in the wrong place. So a little bit of cutting oil on that now, it looks like it's going to work. So, not sure if that's a perfect thread really. It's alright. It's not shabby at all. But, and it screws on there nicely, which is all it needs to do. I'm going to give it a bit of a polish with some Scotch-Brite. Or add it to take the burrs off it, but it seems to be okay, so we're going to live with that. Now, next thing to do is to put this slot in here. Now, I'm probably just going to put the chuck over on the rotary table while it's set up and run a slot through the top of that in the middle, and then measure each side until we get at 5mm. That's probably the best and easiest way. So if I take this chuck off, it'll go straight on the rotary table over there, and we can use that on the same setup to get that in the center. So I think we'll look over there and get that sorted and put just a straight slot in this at 5mm. I don't have a 60-degree dovetail cutter, or we might do it that way. We don't have a vertical head on the mill either, so what I'm probably going to do is clean this up afterwards in the shaper, so stand by for some shaper action. So I've set this up in the mill and I've put the overarm back on, and I've reversed the direction of this again, and I've found the centre roughly. Doesn't matter a lot as long as they've got clearance, because what I'm going to do is just run the centre down, and then I'm going to measure this edge here and just see exactly how close we are, because this is a bit undersized. And we're going to move this in and cut that side, and then we're going to come back over and cut this side the same, and our slot should be right in the middle. So that's what we're going to do. I think this is going to clean up. This is 3.5mm, something like that. This cutter is 532. We probably want to make sure this is somewhere near straight before we go anywhere. And I don't believe it is, just looking at that. So the drawing says this needs to be 2mm deep. That looks about right to me. Just using that as a depth gauge, we're only about one. Say we're about 0.9, so we want to go 1.1 deeper. And we can do all that in one pass without any issues. I don't think that'll be a problem. If we zero our Y, and wind him up to 1.1. We're 2mm deep. Next job is to work out how much further across this way we want to go, and it's not much. It's not much. Probably a much better way to measure this, but we're looking here at we're going to go with 2.1. We need to be 1.7, so that's 0.4 of a millimetre. Because we don't have a DRO slide on this yet, which we probably regret every time we do a job on the mill, we're going to use the hand wheel, but the hand wheel works in thousandths of an inch, so we need to convert that, and that converts to 15 thousandths of an inch. So if we just wind that across here, 15 thou, we'll run through it again. That's a very light cut. We read about 1.7. So rather than move this across, all we've got to do is make a note of where this is just past 195. The other mark on the other side's 15, and it'll be just past there. This says 40. So we should be able to turn it exactly half a turn and end up with it with a parallel slot that's the right thickness. So this slot should be 5mm, pretty close too. The best way probably to do that is to measure it with a gauge block or a gauge pin. I think it might be a fraction wide if anything, which is a bit of a problem, but not enough to worry about. We're looking at about 5.1, something like that. Anyway, not shabby. That'll do. Would have been nice to get it right on tolerance, but let's take it out, have a bit of a look over at the shaper and put some angles on it. So the trouble is with the sort of jobs I do on my shaper is that by the time you get the camera set up, and work out how you're going to set the part up, and spend some time messing around, a fair bit of messing around on this, what you find is that the job's done by the time you've actually got any footage. But I've set up a little toolmaker's vise, a little 25mm toolmaker's vise, a grinding vise, on a 30-degree angle with this clamps just to hold it, because if I turn it round so it's the other way, I'm sort of working blind and it's still going to move in the vise. So there's not a lot holding this on here. So I've put this vise on, this clamp on here, and that keeps it from moving backwards and forwards here. I've sharpened up a tool and I've just run down there at straight down on that side and straight down on that side, and this will still need a little bit of a deburr, a tiny little deburr, but to give you some idea, that slides in there reasonably comfy at the moment, and I think with a deburr it'll be pretty good. So happy with that. And just to show you sort of how I did it, there's not a lot of cleanup work involved in this, and there's not a whole lot of like complicated setup work either. So that job's done and this part's pretty much finished. Let's get him out and deburr him, clean him up and have a look at it on the bench and see where we're at with it. So here we go. I've got this piece that's pretty tidy. I'm not too unimpressed with that at all. It's still needs a bit of a deburr and a clean up. It could do with a little bit of a fillet or radius or arris or whatever you want to call it around some of these pieces so that it doesn't ding up when you're messing around with it. This piece too could do with the same on this piece. That's got a nice thread on it. I'm really pleased with that. For the purposes of the act, it's not too shabby. As far as being a quality precision thread, I'm not so sure about that, but it's not wobbly, so it's all right. And the two fit together nicely. This dovetail we've given a bit of a clean up. It's still a bit sharp and I don't like that much, but I don't know if there's anything you can do about it. Maybe you could just clean them. Maybe I might just clean the sharp corners off. But this fits nicely on this indicator. Like so. It's pretty good, secure hold without too much effort at all. I really like that. And it's all nice and square, etc, 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 like it should be. Fairly pleased with that. It fits this dovetail too. like that. And once you get it nice and firm, it's not going to move. Pretty pleased with that. And likewise for this one. That's probably fraction loose on the dovetail, but I'd say that this is metric and this is probably an imperial dovetail. And that's not too bad. It tightens up nice. And it's probably pretty good actually. So it slides nice. So that's those two bits done. Without any more messing around, I'm going to get pretty much straight into the next part, which is the main body. Fairly pleased with them. Mostly these parts end up being deburred and deburred and deburred and deburred with me. As I'm finishing a project, I'll sit down for half an hour and I'll go over them all and just make sure they're tactile and nice. There's no sharp corners and everything's neat and tidy and everything looks the same. And I'll do that 3 or 4 times while I'm doing that. I'll do that 3 or 4 times during the project on all the parts. These have had a bit of a clean up since last time you saw them. The nut has, and the washers. That's a bit of a, it's just something that you never ever quite get right, is that they could be finished a little bit better, nearly all these pieces, all of the time. Anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're watching it on Patreon, you guys know who you are, but you're awesome. Don't forget that. And more soon, guys and girls. Be kind to each other.